let's explore how we can find the roots of perfect squares without using a calculator. Let's use the example of 5,476, and we wish to find the square root of that number. Well, I haven't memorized my multiplication facts, so I know that what number times itself will give me that, but I can use some other information that I already do know, as I know the squares of all of these numbers all the way to 12. That obviously isn't large enough because 12 times 12 is 144, obviously way too small. But then I also know that 20 times 20 is 400, and I've used the idea that 2 times 2 is 4, so 20 times 20 is 400. Similarly, 7 times 7 is 49, so we can see here that 70 times 70 is 4,900. Now, the number 5,476 is bigger than 2,500. It's bigger than 3,600. It's bigger than 4,900, but not quite as big as 6,400. So I know that 70 squared is equal to 4,900, and that 80 squared is equal to 6,400. So this number must be somewhere in between. So I know that it's going to be the square root of 5,476 is going to be 70 something or other. It's not going to be 80 something or other because that's already too high. So now I have to decide what is going to be in the ones place value. Well, 5,476 is approximately 600 away from 70 squared, and it's approximately 900 away from here. So the number 5,476 is closer to 70 squared. So that these become my benchmarks. It's closer to 70 squared than it is to 80 squared. So I know the number is going to be closer to 70 than it is to 80. Okay? Now, it ends in, now let's figure out what the last digit is. It ends in a 6. The only way I can end in a 6 by using this is I could go 4 times 4 ends in a 6, and 6 times 6 ends in a 6. Well, I already said that the number has to be closer to 70, so I have two options. I have 74 could be one option, and 76 could be the other option. But because the number has to be closer to 70, the square root must be 74. If you check it on the calculator, that will be correct. Okay, let's try one more. Let's try another one, and let's use our benchmarks. Let's find out the square root. Let's look at the square root of 7,744. Now, using my benchmarks, I know that it must be between 80 and 90. So I know that the square root of this number is 80 something. Now I need to find out the exact square root. 7,744 is closer to 90 than it is to 80. So I know this is going to be in the this number will be in the high 80s. Okay, because this number here is much closer to 90. It's only about 400 away from 90 and about 1,200 away from 80 squared. Okay, now it ends in a 4. Looking at this table here, the only way I can end in a 4 is I could be a 12 times 12, which is really same as a 2 times 2, or I could be an 8 times 8, which gives me 64. And again, I said this number is going to be closer to 90, so it must be 88. squared. So if you check this on the calculator, you will see that the square root of 7,744 is indeed 88 squared. Or rather, the square root is 88.